Welcome back. Well, as you've seen, yes, Mr. Dennis Amakre, former Deputy Director with the SSS, he joins us this morning. Good to see you again today.
Good morning, guys.
Well, yes, indeed, but it's a different sort of morning because everybody woke up this morning with the news of coronavirus.
Exactly.
This can be a security threat. It has security implications.
Yeah, of course. It's a pandemic that is coming up across the world, and I think the earlier we start to work on it, the better for us to control it because it's a serious pandemic coming up.
How do our security agencies actually think when this kind of thing happens? Do they just say, well, it's a health implication, or what do they do?
They usually look at, the health people more or less look at it, but it's a security threat. And I think the security people will do well in looking at it too. Well, in the airports now, you have the immigration and port health, all those are some kind of security people trying to, keep the gate to make sure that it doesn't sneak into the country, although we have one now.
As a security expert, I mean, there are conspiracy theories going around, and I'd like you to respond as someone in the place of, authority.
Okay.
Is it even possible to weaponize something like this?
Of course, it's weaponized. We have different kinds of pandemic issues around the world, and then, of course, there is this conspiracy theory about this particular COVID-19 that it was created in a lab and then it was sent to China, and from China it has burst out. So you find out that these conspiracy theories are alive. And of course, for a lab virus to be starting to grow all over the world, it means it has been weaponized.
This morning coming to work, I still saw some policemen on the road jumping in front of cars and trying to stop them. Business as usual, no pun intended. But I'm just wondering, because, I mean, DSS, SSS officials, as it were, of course, they are usually attached to politicians. Do they actually think, what do they do differently for this kind of scenario?
Well, I think we are like on a learning curve, just like your last guest was saying. It's a learning curve, and people will start to learn because sometimes we don't really care about these things. We were very lucky when, was it Ebola? Came into Nigeria, and it was quite contained, but it took some lives with it. And this is the same thing. If we don't take care, we can't contain all of it.
Well, also going back to that issue now, there is, on the one hand, is this one that is just breaking now. On the other hand, are the security concerns that we have had over time. Do you see any distraction?
Well, I don't really see any distraction from what is going, the present threats that we have. I don't see any difference of what it might change in the process.
I know that Edo elections will be coming up. The primaries will also be happening sooner. But the zonal director of DSS, we also have the CP. They've raised security concerns in the state. For them, is this going to change anything, or they'll just go ahead and business as usual?
No, I think they've done the first step, and that is trying to come out with an intelligence assessment of the situation. They've connected the dots, and what they are seeing is not a very, very beautiful picture.
They said even the use of dynamite
it's
already.
Yes, that's why they said it's a frightening picture. It's frightening. And this one in Edo State particularly is very worrisome because we're dealing with, it's not a situation between two parties. It's an intra-party stuff. And I think it has to be arrested immediately. Otherwise, there is a tendency for it to, go out of hand.
What particularly raised it for them, they were concerned. They went back history lane, in fact. They said, look, from what we've seen, June 17, for instance, at that time, 19 out of 24 Edo Assembly members, we all saw that story as well, when they were supposed to have been sworn in, but they couldn't get inaugurated. Then June 18, you also saw that some lawmakers eventually got themselves allegedly inaugurated. June 19, the special advisor to the governor on media and strategy issued a statement, to inform the public that the assembly was going to be inaugurated. Then, if you just fast forward to time, February 23, the governor met with former president and then some of those things. But the narrative, the rhetoric coming from politicians about this matter, as much as DSS and the police can give that advisory, what do they actually, how do these politicians internalize them, and what can authorities do if they keep going the way they do in spite of the advisories?
That's why I'm saying that, you know, we have to handle it, and it has to be handled by the party or by the government, because that's the government in power. You see, there is this tendency for us to say it's a family issue, or, you know, it will happen, they take care of it, it's a family problem, and they will take care of it. But that is not what it is. People are positioning themselves right now, and there is this control. People not letting go of people who are in office to carry out their duties. And then, of course, you have these remote control, and then the application of what they call federal might, you know, in situations like that. I think all these things, it leads us into an outlaw situation. And that's why we have to make sure that everybody's under the rule of law. We're coming back to that same argument about rule of law again now, because some people feel that they're above the law, and nothing could...
Do they feel that way? Because, look, as much as the CPs and the DSS can give all the advisory, they never arrest these political thugs.
Exactly. Yeah,
So, and then on the one hand, you're encouraging what's going on.
Yeah, you know, last year, well, before the election, we were saying something about the different threats that we face in this country. Banditry, herdsmen, and all the rest, you know. And I added one more threat, and that threat was politicians, because they are a major threat affecting the stability of this country, you know. And right now, the security agencies are caught in a trap, because, you know, that's why, you know, we've still been advocating of security agencies being independent. Because when you're not independent...
What specifically, what do we do to achieve that?
Well, they have to amend the Constitution, whereby the instruments that formed the police, or even the DSS, should be changed in such a way that they will be independent and be reporting to the Constitution instead to a single person.
Let me ask you this. So now the police and the DSS have given this position that there is security threats in the build-up to the Edo politics. These politicians, these threats that you mentioned, they are not invisible. Isn't it about time they were placed on a watch list?
Who are you placing on a watch list now?
You talked about the politicians, and the DSS and the police are aware, and they have come out to say the security situation in Edo in the build-up to the election is tension-soaked.
Yes. Watch lists are meant for people who are most likely to run away from the country.
Who are security threats?
Who have security,
you mentioned that politicians...
security interests, yes. But there's no need to put them on watch list. But, of course, the security agencies have a dossier on all these people, you know, and maybe one day it might come up when either the person is no more in government or the government has changed to something else, and then, of course, they pull it out and say, you did this and this and this and that. But, you know, I think politicians have to start learning, you know, to be very, very patriotic and make sure that it's just a stage. You come, you act, and then you go off, and then it continues.
And if they don't?
That's why we're having these problems. And I don't think we really want to have these problems, because it's going to cause problems for us.
And we don't want to turn that watch list, so we sit down look list. Well, we're back in the moment, and stay with us. Our concluding moments now. The last two elections, Kogi and Bayelsa, we saw how those ones went, because the impression people had was that if we had those isolated elections, you would deploy a lot of security. They did, actually, but it turned out that sometimes they even say, look, even security agencies are working against us, we the people in this case. Yeah. So where does that leave this whole forthcoming Edo elections?
You see, the political parties have to organize themselves properly and run, you know, the elections with INEC. The security agencies are there to monitor and see that nothing goes out of shape, and then, of course, if anything goes out of normal, they arrest the situation. You know, but it's a situation where we are now involving the security people, and then, of course, trying to corrupt the security people, and then the outcome is going to be a disaster in any place that it's happening.
But can they really arrest? Because earlier on, you alluded to the fact that some people seem above the law.
Yes.
And I mean, we were talking about that watch list or sit-down look list, as some might refer to it. So really, are they powerful enough, the security agencies, to effect this arrest such that whoever you are, whatever side of the divide you belong to, once you are found doing something or breaking the law, you are arrested?
I think if they are independent enough, they can do that. But right now, because they are not that independent, they are looking at, you even see them on both sides of the divide, whereby an opposition governor is carrying some mopoles with him, and then the other side is also having their own mopoles, and we are not expecting mopoles to be exchanging fire on each other, So the best thing is for them to just be independent or be observers, while the political parties organize themselves properly. Because how long are we going to try this experiment before we get it right? Okay. And then bringing the security agencies, deploying them. We have isolated elections now, and so you can send all your resources in there. But how long are we going to be doing that? How about general election? So there is need for a proper restructuring and a proper plan, election plan, that will take off without, involving too much security. There are many countries, you don't see a single security man when you have an election.
Because now that they saw helicopters being used for Kogi elections, so politicians may be thinking now, okay, how do I outsmart that if they're going to deploy helicopters against me? It's a sad narrative that you're thinking in that particular way. Anyway, but now that they raised that concern, we hope that they will eventually just go in there and do the right things. Thank you for coming on. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much for having me.
Mr. Denzel Makore is a former deputy director with the SSS. Don't forget, you need to take care. Do what you can. Those preventive tips are always there for you, what to do to ensure that you guard against this COVID-19, the reported case in Nigeria. We also like to add that the health workers have got to maintain a high index of suspicion and always wear their PPE, that's the personal protective equipment, while they are attending to patients. It's going to be very important. So all of those numbers, whatever you see on WhatsApp and Facebook, those numbers, you can always bounce them against those. So you need to check with those numbers before you click share or forward, because it will be very important at the end of the day. But you need to keep it locked on channels because we're going to monitor and bring you up to speed concerning steps that are being taken by the authorities, what you need to do to be safe. Well, thank you all for watching today. What a week it's been, and what a Friday it's been. We'll see you next week. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
Don't forget, don't panic. Okay, I trust we'll be fine. I'm Kayode Okikelu. And
if you don't have to go anywhere, then don't.
Isn't that too late already? We're here.
If you don't have to. I'm Ayo Makide. Have a wonderful day and a great weekend.